Welcome back to the Bernard Lee Poker Show. Last week, we spoke with Robbie Straczynski as he was having his inaugural Mixed Game Festival, which was being held at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort from October 4th through the 7th. Basically, it was mixed game cash games, and then it had a $200 H.O.R.S.E tournament finale, and the winner would receive a coveted Platinum Pass as well as the cash first prize. A lot of players came out to the event itself, 124 player field, and some big names were there. Poker News's Chad Holloway, Linda Johnson was there as well. Jesse Fullen, who came on the show recently, but this gentleman not only attended, but he won it all, including the Platinum Pass. He is a good friend of the show and the 2004 WSOP Main Event winner, Greg Fossilman Raymer. Congratulations, Greg, and thanks for joining us here on the Bernard Lee Poker Show.
Thanks, Bernard. Appreciate it. Glad to be on.
You decided not to play in a bracelet event the day before and went to support Robbie, and then this kind of just steamrolled into playing in the event, right?
Correct. I had planned on playing the $1,500 stud tournament.
Yeah.
And that was the third day of the festival when it was still just the cash games. And the computers, I was about to leave my room. The computers I saw on Twitter were down at the Rio and you couldn't register for anything. And they had already pushed back the stud event at least an hour, and I thought, who knows how much longer. And I just wasn't, yet switched over to a late night schedule, really. Yeah. And I didn't want to have to play until maybe 4 a.m. in that event, because I knew for the last 2 or 3 hours of it, I wouldn't be playing my best.
Right.
So I thought, well, I'll skip that. And then now what do I do? And I was like, well, let's go support Robbie in the Mixed Game Festival, because I'm all for mixed games. That's
Sure.
My preference. And I'm playing and people are asking me, are you going to play the tournament? And I was like, well, no, because you get bonus chips for playing the cash games for those 3 days.
Right.
So for every 5 hours you played in the cash games in the 4-8 dealer's choice, you got 2,000 extra chips on top of the 10,000 starting stack.
Right.
And I was like, why do I want to play a tournament where I'll have 10, maybe 12,000 if I play here long enough today? And some people might have 20,000.
Right.
But then it was like, well, wait, what about the Platinum Pass? And I was like, oh yeah, that does change the math.
Right.
We already knew they only had 15 tables, so it was going to be 120 players max. And if there was time for anyone to get in as an alternate, but this is all limit, so people don't bust as quickly. And so I knew it wouldn't be much more than that. So it's going to be like a $20,000 prize pool, but then $30,000 added value, 150% overlay.
Right.
Couldn't say no to that. So I, bought in because they were like, it might sell out. So I bought in that day before I left and then came back the next day to play the tournament.
There you go. And then next thing you know, you have that Platinum Pass, and it is a tremendous value. Like you said, $30,000 value on top of the first prize that you receive, which is about $5,000. But incredible for that to happen, and for that Poker Players Championship. Back in 2019, $25,000 buy-in, 1,039 entries. For those of people who don't remember this, I know it was pre-COVID, so everyone forgets about that. But this tournament was a $25,000 buy-in and 1,039 entries, creating a over $26 million prize pool. And the winner took home $5.1 million. And that's more than you won in the main event, right?
It is. It's more than I won in 2004 for winning the World Championship. And, and it's not like it is a high roller field.
Right.
I mean, you play any other tournament for a 25K buy-in, however many entries there are, that's usually, basically one of the toughest fields of the year. You don't get a bunch of amateurs, showing up. You might get a couple of like really rich guys that are just saying, what the heck?
Right.
But that's not terribly common. And some of the famous rich guys, for playing poker are actually really good players.
Right.
And they play those high roller events fairly often. So it's not like they're, adding tons of value to the field, but so many of these platinum passes are given away. I don't know what they'll be doing this time, but I remember, and it won't happen again since he's no longer with the company, but last time Chris Moneymaker was doing his Moneymaker tour all over the US, and people were winning platinum passes in tournaments with an $88 buy-in.
Right.
So it was just like, and he was going to some really small poker rooms. It's not
Right.
like he was going to Atlantic City and, Miami area. And I mean, he was going to, small little poker rooms.
Midwest rooms and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
It's like, here's a room with like 6, 7, 8 tables, and
Right.
there's no other poker room for 100, 500 miles. And,
Right.
So these weren't even big fields. It wasn't like you had to beat 1,000 people to win the Platinum Pass. You just had to beat maybe 100, 150 of your local regulars. And then boom, you're off, playing a 25K buy-in.
Right.
And they're doing tons of giveaways and other methods. So there's a lot of players that would generally never play in a 25K buy-in will be in the field. So it is as soft a field as you're ever going to get at that price point.
Right. 100%. It is definitely, like you said, because so many seats were given away. It's just such a different scenario. We've talked about mixed games here on the Bernard Lee Poker Show. It was a $200 H.O.R.S.E event. Of those games, what do you feel is your best game? But then I'm also going to ask the question, what's the game you like the most? Maybe it's the same answer, but sometimes it's different.
If I could only play one of those 5 games forever, I'd probably pick Stud 8. But whenever someone is like, what's your favorite game? My answer is pretty much always your worst game.
Yeah, of course.
Like whoever I'm playing against, I would rather play their worst game
Right.
than my best game.
Right.
So even if I think I'm much better at Stud 8, it's like if you are decent at Stud 8 and horrible at Raz,
right.
I'd rather play Raz
Of course,
against you.
of course. So basically, you go by the dealer's choice philosophy, figure out what the other players don't do well, and then that's what you choose in dealer's choice. You may be, and just to put in perspective to everyone, you may be proficient on a scale of 9, let's say, on every single game. And then maybe one game you're a 7, but if everyone else is a 2, you'd be better off to choose the game that you may be less proficient in, but you still have a bigger edge than to the compare to the field. And so obviously when you're playing dealer's choice, a lot of people are trying to figure out what games other people don't like. And the one thing that I will say that I've when I've played is that you don't want to react. Like somebody says, oh, well, let's play Badesi. And then someone's like, oh, like they do something like that. And you immediately realize, oh, they don't like Badesi. Oh, instead of just sit there and be like, okay, next, let's go. Even if you hate the game, just don't react because you're giving it away and you're helping us in the scenario of, okay, if 2 of you guys don't like Badesi, I'm playing Badesi, that kind of thing.
Well, you could give the false tell.
Sure, that's a good point. Yeah, deuce to 7 and be like, oh no.
The guy calls single draw, and you're like, it's so boring. Only 2 rounds of betting. It's
right. I like that. Yeah. Good idea.
Archie, are you kidding me? What the hell is Archie?
Right.
No, I love all the games for the most part. I mean, as far as cash games go, No Limit Hold'em is my least favorite.
Yeah.
It's a good tournament game. And that's the main problem with like H.O.R.S.E and all the other limit games is that they don't make for good tournament play.
Right.
Any limit game
is
just not that good for tournament play because you can't give a good enough structure for there to be deep stacks to the end.
Because by the end, it's literally 2-3 bets all in. Eventually, once you get past a certain street or a certain bet, you're in. There's nothing
generally well before you get into the money in any limit tournament, the average stack is down to like 15 small bets or less.
Right.
And even the 50K Players Championship back, in the first few years when it was H.O.R.S E, we'd have like 140 people, and it's a 5-day tournament. I mean,
Right.
how bad can the structure be if it takes 5 days
Right.
to reach a winner? But the thing is that like no one hardly went broke on day one. And again, you were going to pay 16 spots. By the time you were down to like 30 to 50 players, the average stack was going to be, maybe a little more than 15 small bets. And when you do your math, you're like, oh, like I raise in Omaha, you defend your big blind, and you have, let's say, a perfectly good hand. Like, you have ace 3 4 jack with a
Hmm.
suited ace,
Yep.
and now it comes 5 7 queen, with one of your suit. It's like you're not supposed to fold to my pre-flop raise. You're not supposed to fold if I bet that flop. Another low card comes. You're not supposed to fold the second nut low. And now, maybe you've picked up some kind of backdoor draw as well, and it's like that misses, but you're still supposed to call down. And now I show you like ace deuce, and I paired the 10, or I, have ace ace deuce or whatever. It's like, if someone else played your hand, the only thing they would do differently is maybe they would try a raise at some point, and they'd end up losing more.
Right.
So sometimes you're just destined to lose, like at least those 7 bets. And if it's that stage of the tournament, that's like half your stack.
Right. Right.
And if anyone said, oh, you should have played it differently, they like, yeah, you should have raised at this point or that point.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, the other guy had ace ace deuce, he was never folding. So even if, yes, technically you're correct, I should have raised or check raised the turn, in hindsight, I would have lost more.
Right.
And it's unavoidable basically. And there's lots of those kinds of spots where, because it's limit, you're just not supposed to fold.
Right. Right. You are at the World Series. The plan is to stay the entire time.
Yep. I done it every year so far. I've come out and just spent the whole, previously summer, this year fall, so like that 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and show up, maybe not for the very, very first event, but soon after, and then stay at least through the main event.
World Series obviously is back. Of all of the events, I know the main event is one, and we'll talk about that in a second, but any other events that you look at it when you looked at the schedule and say, definitely can't wait for that one?
Probably the single draw. No limit deuce to 7 single draw, because it's a
Friday.
draw
Friday.
game,
It's
which I
Friday.
love. I love the draw games,
Yeah.
and it's doesn't have the disadvantage of being limit,
Yeah.
for a tournament.
Right.
So now you have the advantages of no limit, that you can still have lots of play all the way through to heads up. You can
Yep.
still have, 40, 50 big blind stacks. But it's not a flop game, it's a draw game. And
Right.
I really enjoy that game a lot. I wish that was out there and available in cash games as I traveled the country all year long.
I'm with you.
But even if they're allowed to spread it wherever you're at, there won't be anyone else who wants to play it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's my favorite, obviously. I'm
Yeah,
flying in.
I know you like
I'm
it too.
I'm literally flying in on Thursday night to be able to play on Friday. And so I'm excited. I'm excited
Yep.
about it. What was your, when you come to the World Series, how do you determine your schedule? Do you look at the schedule and kind of circle it along, or do you literally wake up in the morning and be like, what's the 11 o'clock event and play it? Or, oh, I like the 3 o'clock event better, I'm going to skip the 11 and play the 3. Or, do you just, do it like some guys, just show up at 11, play. If you get knocked out, you go to the 3 o'clock, that kind of thing. How do you determine your schedule?
No, I'll look ahead a day. I mean,
Yep.
like if I'm not still in an event,
Yep.
then I'm looking ahead to tomorrow, because it's like, yeah, if the 3 o'clock event's one I really want,
Right.
then maybe I'm going to skip the 11. And therefore I might as well also, like, I can stay up later tonight and sleep in, and then still be playing well at the end of the day
Yeah.
for that 3 p.m. start. I mean, today I had to get up super early. I was day 2 of the Millionaire Maker. So that's restarts at 10 a.m., which,
Yeah.
so I'm waking up a little after 8 o'clock. And, my thinking had been I'll go play the mixed Omaha 8 tournament that is going on right now. But then I'm just like, man, I didn't get a full night's sleep. And again, I don't think I'm going to be able to play my best the last hour or two.
Right.
And so I'm not going to play it. I'm not the kind of guy that can take a nap. So it's not like I've come back to my room, I'm going to take a nap for 2 hours and then be ready to go.
Right.
It doesn't work like that for me. So it's like, this is an event I really like, and yet I'm skipping it because, I have people who buy pieces of me for the whole year, and it
Yep.
wouldn't be fair to them to go play an event where I think I'm not going to play my A game beginning to end.
Right. Right. You have said, obviously, that you'll be at the main event every single year. If not, you're either dead or you're in the hospital. There wasn't a main.
It's
There
gotta
wasn't
be,
a.
it's gotta be impossible
Right.
for some reason.
Right.
It isn't gonna be because I made it clear already, like my daughter, like, hey, if you were ever gonna like get to that point where you're gonna get married, don't even think about scheduling your
Right.
wedding
July.
to conflict with the main event,
Right,
because
right.
I've warned you now. I don't care if it's like, well, that's the only day that his church is available and he wants to get married there. I'm like, yeah, tough luck. I won't be there.
Right. 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 So with regards to that, obviously, one of the other things is a pandemic. There was no World
Yes.
Series last year, obviously.
But I came out here to Vegas for the online events, and I stayed at a friend's house and played out of his basement. And then when they scheduled that 10K version in December, I went to a different friend's house in Atlantic City and stayed with him and played that event online. And and I wasn't thrilled about it because I'd rather play live than online.
Of course.
But still, I couldn't see passing up the main event.
Right. How was COVID for you?
Well, I mean, it sucks.
Did you play a lot online,
I can't do
or
seminars and
Yeah,
I can't do my seminars, and I much prefer live play over online. Most of my online play has really been on private clubs. Like we're doing play money games on Pokerstars home clubs, and then you settle up on the outside.
Yeah. So the World Series obviously back. Everyone has to be vaccinated. How comfortable are you, when you're out there playing? A lot of people are wearing masks. Do you wear a mask? How are you approaching this year with the regulations and the restrictions?
Well, I got vaccinated as soon as I was eligible. I mean, nothing to do with the World Series of Poker.
Of course.
To me, I think that's the sensible decision, no matter what your health status, unless you have a specific medical issue that your doctor would say the vaccine's not a good idea for you. And that's not even 1% of the population that fits into that category. Then to me, it's a no-brainer. But I'm not uncomfortable sitting at the tables at the World Series. I don't wear the mask at the table because you don't have to. And I'm aware of the science. It's kind of what I used to do. I was a patent attorney. I worked for Pfizer the last half of my career as a lawyer. I did biotech type stuff, medical devices. A mask doesn't do much to protect you. It works really well at protecting others from you. And so, if I'm at a poker table and no one's wearing a mask but me, it's marginally helpful at protecting me. But if you are somewhere else where everyone isn't vaccinated, now I do want them to enforce that mask policy and tell the guy to not let his nose hang out and all that stuff, because him wearing his mask is protecting me. And if I'm sick somehow and don't know it, my mask is protecting him.
Right.
And, I have no reason to think that I have COVID or that I ever have had it. But especially once you're vaccinated, there's a lot more people who are catching it and being asymptomatic. So the risk is, fairly low when you're in an environment where everyone is vaccinated, but there's still some risk. So I'm certainly not going to tease anyone who's sitting at the Rio playing poker with a mask on.
Right.
I'm like, fine with me. The funny thing is, I see a lot more of the dick nosing going on because, like, they don't have to wear a mask at all. You certainly can't tell them to cover
Right.
their nose with it.
Right.
I think it's more of a, like, hide your tell. Like, they're wearing the mask more to, like, cover their mouth.
So it's funny they said that. Some people were saying that they're like, oh, I might as well utilize it. If I can cover my face, might as well cover my face. Why not?
Yeah, but they're like, but I don't want to cover my nose because that's what makes it kind of hot and moist behind the mask.
Right.
So I'll just cover my mouth with it. And you get the guy who, like, wears the hat and the hoodie and the mask and the sunglasses, and
Right.
there's like nothing visible at all. Like,
That's right.
Like,
That's
this
right.
guy has like a few square inches of visible skin, like
That's
around
right.
the perimeter of the glasses and stuff, and that's it. So,
That's right.
like, one guy was sitting like that at my table, and then we're going to go on break, and he, like, starts peeling things off for a second, like, hey Greg, how you been? And I'm like, shit, I know you. Like,
Yeah,
I had
yeah,
no
yeah.
clue that was you for the
Right.
last 2 hours, but, like, yeah, I know you.
Yeah.
Literally, if you had pulled me aside and said, who is that? I'd have been like, how do I, he's dressed like a mummy. How would I know who he is behind all that,
Right.
But it was like, oh yeah, no, I know this guy really well.
Right.
And it
Right.
wouldn't have even occurred to me that was him behind all that stuff.
Right. Well, Greg, congratulations on the Platinum Pass and Robbie Straczynski's inaugural Mixed Game Festival. And good luck the rest of the way. We'll see you there in a few days, and look forward to hanging out. And hopefully we can have another interview later on the summer after you pick up another bracelet.
That sounds like a great plan, Bernard. Thank you. I hope you run well in the single draw and win every pot that I'm not in with you.
I love it. I love it. I appreciate it, my friend. Greg Fossilman Raymer, 2004 WSOP Main Event champion and the winner of the inaugural Mixed Game Festival tournament, the $200 H.O.R.S.E event, which, of course, now he takes home the Pokerstars Platinum Pass as well. Well, stay tuned next week as we continue our interviews with winners in these bracelet events. We'll be talking with other people. We'll be talking with Daniel Negreanu to talk about his win in the PokerGo Championship. We'll talk with Chad Holloway to see his impressions of the World Series so far to date. As I mentioned, we'll be talking with more WSOP bracelet winners as well. And as always, may you always go in with the best hand, and may you never get unlucky. Good night, everybody.